Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. Today we're looking at Xenk, Paladin, Unbroken. So this is one of the secret layer cards based on the Dungeons & Dragons movie, not the original crazy one, the newest one. And Xenk is a 4 mana 2/4 with double strike, and he says auras you control have exalted. So clearly we have a Voltron commander here, and since we're in mono white, we're also going the stacks route. So the main thing that differentiates Xenk from various other mono white stacks Voltron beatdown commanders is the auras having exalted part, which means that every aura is a pump spell by default. So with that said, we do have our various beatdown auras, All That Glitters, Daybreak Coronet, Ethereal Armor, Idolized, Mantle. We also have these little cantrips here, Angelic Gift and Feather of Flight, which help to give evasion. A bunch of card draw, including card draw based on our auras, so things like Core Spirit Dancer and SRAM. Interesting card here in Songbird's Blessing. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, reveal cards from the top until you hit an aura and put the aura onto the battlefield. If you don't, put it into your hand, so just a way to keep cheating auras onto the battlefield. Flickering Ward is here, mainly not as a way to give protection, but because we can keep bouncing it to our hand and re-triggering all of these aura cast spells. So for Spirit Dancer, Enchantress, SRAM, we can keep drawing cards off of those every single time we flicker the Flickering Ward back to our hand and play it again. We have our straight up evasion in things like Griftspoon, the aforementioned cantripping flight spells, Spirit Mantle, and Unquestioned Authority to get pro creatures. Then we've got mostly snow plains with a handful of other lands, including importantly Sarah's Sanctum, since we're going to be playing a lot of enchantments. It was also important to me when playtesting this deck, I found that sometimes you would just straight up brick and not have access to more card draw. So Monumental Henge in here is a way to have the option to go for more cards. It's obviously very inefficient and hypothetically can be entering the battlefield tapped if you don't have a Snow Plains and you've got one of these other lands, but I felt it was worth it. Obviously, we need a bunch of protection. Our plan is to strap a bunch of auras to Xenk, and so we don't want Xenk to get countered, killed, or especially have a bunch of auras get put on it and then it gets killed and we lose all of our auras. So all of the, moms and just other spells that protect it, give it hexproof, indestructible, protection from color, can't be countered, etc. A little bit of ramp, but not much, because we're mainly going to be stacks oriented. We also have this mass reanimation, so if we do get into a situation where a bunch of our auras wind up going to the graveyard, we can get them back via Replenish or Mantle of the Ancients. Then we've also got some removal, mostly in the form of auras. So this is cards like Chains of Custody, Darksteel Mutation, Ossification, On Thin Ice, Reprobation, Sheltered by Ghosts. And importantly, it's worth noting here that even though these auras may not go on our own creatures or they may go on our opponent's creatures, we still control them, and therefore they still have the exalted ability granted by Xenk. And then mono white, here's your stacks. It's a whole bunch of stacks. Can't cast multiple spells, artifacts die if you don't pay for them, can't search your library, can't activate your abilities, ETB triggers don't go off. If you or your playgroup are not personally a fan of stacks, I don't really know what to tell you. There's really not a good way of making this deck function if you don't have stacks. Or you just have to accept that you will get run over by the combo decks, by the value decks, by the ramp decks, if you are not playing these cards that curb your opponents. Or alternatively, you could keep just the ones that aren't too miserable to play against, like Rule of Laws, for example, but not necessarily disrupt your opponent from doing what they're trying to do. So, not play Stony Silence, for example, and just keep the other stuff. And so with all that said, that is going to do it for Xenk, Paladin, Unbroken.